my name is Anna and welcome to my YouTube channel, True Blue Faith. If you are new to my channel, I just hope that while you're here you feel encouraged to stay true to who God made you to be, and I am just so honored and blessed that I get to walk alongside of you in your faith journey. If you haven't yet subscribed, I would love to go ahead and invite you to hit the subscribe button so that you can join this growing community. So today's video, I am going to share some of my favorite, look, I have a stack of books to share with you. Some of my favorite books that I have read that really encourage my faith, have pushed me in my faith, or challenged me in my faith, that I would recommend to other Christians. Some of these books are going to be for people who are new to their faith and just want to just kind of like learn and go more surface. A couple of them are for people who really want to dive in and be challenged. So I will tell you those as we get to them, which books they are. I will link all of these books below. So I will share the Amazon links for all of them, but then I'm also going to share a few of my favorite bookshops that you can also go and make online orders from. They're small businesses, locally owned, and small businesses could really just use some help right now. So if you have the opportunity to support a small business, go ahead and do so. But I also know Amazon sometimes has really good sales on books and you get it 2 days later. So whichever way you want to do it, just want to encourage you that these books are really great for yourself or to gift to others, especially this holiday season, because we have a lot of time on our hands while we are sitting at home more than we usually would be. Here we go, there's 15 books, and yeah, you can't quite see the piles, but I have 2 piles. This one, those are all big books, and then another pile that's smaller. I'll share them all with you. So the first book, and I'm just recommending this author as well, is Love Does, author Bob Goff. He is incredible. One thing that I really love about these books is that from beginning to end, it's full of little stories. So you're not like, you don't have to read from beginning to end right away. If you're not a big reader, this would be a great book to have on your shelf, so then sometimes you can just pick it up and read a chapter or two and get a story, and you can set it down again and then pick it up a week later, and you won't feel like you've like forgotten anything. So both this book and then his other book, Everybody Always, which I'm loaning out right now, are great reads, and I would recommend for a new Christian, someone who's exploring faith, as well as like a mature Christian, because the reminders of it, of just Jesus' love for us, are so good and so timely. So would recommend this book as well as Everybody Always by Bob Goff. Next book, oh, these are in no particular order. The next book is Get Out of Your Head by Jenny Allen. This one's incredible. I read it last spring before COVID hit, and it was the perfect timing for it. So the like subtitle is Stopping the Spiral of Toxic Thoughts, which everyone has toxic thoughts. It doesn't just say that, oh, if you are anxious, just turn to Jesus. One thing that I love is that the author really understands the disease of depression and anxiety, so she doesn't try to push it away, but she does give ways to cope and to just work among feelings, which is incredible. Would definitely recommend this book for maybe not a new Christian, but definitely for people who struggle with anxiety or depression. I personally struggle with anxiety and depression, so it's just beautiful. And like I said, it's not something that's gonna like fix it, but just like being more aware of the human thought patterns is really great. Just something good to be aware of. So that is the second book. Book number 3 is Discerning the Voice of God, How to Recognize When God is Speaking by Priscilla Shirer. Amazing. There is also a workbook that goes with this. It's like a 6-week workbook. I personally like this book better. It's because you can read it, kind of get through it a little quicker, where the workbook is like go day by day. It's just easier to kind of give up in the middle with the workbook, whereas the book you can just read right through. So I love this book. It was so eye-opening. Just about recognizing God's voice and how he speaks to people differently, and where he might be speaking into your life, how he could be speaking into your life, and just what it really means to open your heart to hear his voice. Some of the topics in this book and kind of like the word choices are a little bit more complex, so I don't know if I would recommend this for a brand new Christian Like, this would not be the first book I recommend to someone who's just starting to explore their faith, but I definitely would recommend it to people who have maybe been in the faith for a little longer and believe that God can speak to them and want to hear God speak to them. Because the first thing is you have to believe that God actually does speak to us today. Next book is by Jen Wilkin, and it is In His Image. So 10 ways God calls us to reflect His character. This was a great devotional book for me. I read a chapter a day for 10 days, and it was just really great. So like, it talks about how God is holy, good, just, merciful, gracious, faithful, patient, and then how we can reflect those because we're called, or like we are knowing that we are made in His image. So how we can rightfully and appropriately reflect these attributes of God into the world. So it's a really great book. You can read it with friends. Actually, I would recommend this one for a new Christian and a mature Christian. Great reminders, a really great way and practical way to apply God's word today, and just to also further understand God and His attributes. All right, next book. This is a book for sports lovers. This was a book I had to read in seminary, so it is an academic book. It is Good Game, Christianity and the Culture of Sports by Cheryl Hoffman. Yes, this book is an academic book. If you don't know, I am in seminary right now and my concentration is sports ministry. So if you love sports, this book will challenge you. There are some things in it that I agree with. There are some things in it where I'm like, no, I don't agree with this at all. But just like seeing how sports has gone so far away from our original created purposes is so eye-opening. And this book really does that. And you don't have to agree with everything in it, but if you love sports, you should read it. Your eyes will be opened. It will help you be a better teammate if you're an athlete. It will help you be a better fan. It will help you be a better coach, or if you like know someone who is coaching, it might help you walk alongside of them better. Definitely recommend this one for athletes, sports fans, all of those. Next is God and the Pandemic by N.T. Wright. So this came out this year after the pandemic started. N.T. Wright is amazing Christian theologian, like absolutely incredible. He is so smart, so wise. One thing that I don't have any other books by him in this stack because the books that I read are pretty dense and he is a scholar, so they're pretty academic. But this one, it's 78 pages and it just is applicable. He's not trying to impress anyone with this book. Not saying that he is in his other books, but this book truly feels like it's written for anyone and everyone who is wondering what is going on in this pandemic and where is God. So a Christian reflection on the coronavirus and its aftermath. I feel like he wrote this in 2 days when the coronavirus started, because that's just how smart he is, that he can do that. And it's really good. Like I said, he's incredible. I would recommend this book for anyone, even the people who aren't Christians, but like do acknowledge that God is real, but maybe they're not like an active Christian. This book just gives so much to people who read it, and it's also helped me reflect with other people and cope through the challenges that we're facing with other people. The next book, this is not a Christian book, but I think everyone should read it, or at least take time to educate themselves on racial discrimination. So this book is called White Fragility. It is not an everyday type of read. It does not make you feel good. It's very raw, it's very real, very humbling. It does have an academic tone to it, so it's not something you can just like lightly read while you're waiting for your oil to get changed. Like you kind of do need to be able to truly focus on what's being said to take away from it. So whether it's this book or another book, I do think it's so important for everyone to be educating themselves on discrimination, racial discrimination that is going on. So this book is something I would recommend, White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. Next book is Bad Girls of the Bible by Liz Curtis Higgs. And so it's Bad Girls of the Bible and what we can learn from them. This book is such a fun read. I think it would be fun to read in small groups. It's fun to read by yourself. It's a couple chapters, and like I did with In His Image, I did a chapter a day for 2 weeks, and just learning about the women in the Bible who have gone before us, who were brave, who were sinful, but God still used them. Liz Higgs does an amazing, amazing job. By looking at the women in the Bible who maybe we don't hear much about, she really pulls them out and gives us a story for them, which is cool. And I appreciate the time that went into this. I appreciate the research that went into this book. So yeah, that's Bad Girls of the Bible. And she has more books, like I think another one is Really Bad Girls of the Bible. Yeah, there's just a couple in that series. So would recommend this one for a female and new or mature. It was eye-opening to me to read some of these stories who I maybe have glanced over in the past and really take a deeper dive into them. This book is my most recommended book. I recommend this book to everyone. I call it the breakup book, but really it's just any time someone feels rejected in some type of way or something doesn't go the way that they hoped it would, I recommend this book. So it is Uninvited by Lisa TerKeurst. It's beautiful. This is the first like self-help book that I read into my faith a number of years ago, and it really was so eye-opening for me. I think I should probably read it again, but I remember how much it moved me at the time that I recommend it to anyone that I meet that I think would benefit from this. So if you are going through a breakup, if you are going through some type of rejection, or you know a friend that is, I would recommend this book. And one thing that I would also recommend, that if you're going to give a friend a book like this, read it along with them. Don't leave them to read it alone and then to work through their emotions alone. Always be walking with the people and show them that you care about them, show them that you love them. So, Uninvited by Lisa TerKeurst. The next one is Chase the Lion by Mark Batterson. This one is definitely a book for encouraging. It puts a little like fire under your butt to get you going. The thing is, if your dream doesn't scare you, it's too small. And then I think in the book he builds on that where like, and if it's too small, you aren't giving room for God to show up and show off. So this book is so good. Like I said, it puts a little fire under your butt. I would recommend it for anyone. And one also thing that I love about this one is that it is for both genders. It's not like female driven or male driven. Literally anyone can read this book. So that's really helpful when I am trying to recommend a book to a guy friend. And this is the one I go to. Chase the Lion. So if you have dreams and you don't quite know where God fits into them or what you should do with them, read this book and then you will be able to figure it out. Hopefully. That's not a guarantee. Okay, the next book is Cultivate by Laura Casey. This book is so cute. I love the cover. That's why I picked it out to read it in the first place, because the cover was so pretty. And also the book itself is so good. She takes this simple, just kidding, not simple. She takes gardening, which so many people do, as like an everyday stress relief. It brings people peace when they are in their garden, and everyone's just familiar with the growth of flowers, with the growth of nature. She takes those things and combines it with God and God's word. So one of the most impactful things from this book I took away was when she talked about seasons of life, how creation goes through different seasons of life. For example, falling leaves, into winter, into spring, into summer, and just how it's kind of like circular. I took it away, and now that's kind of like how I see my life now. I see myself in different seasons, and just having that understanding has really helped me kind of compartmentalize my seasons. So I just recognize that a season isn't forever, and that is really helpful, especially when I am in hard seasons, aka 2020. So Cultivate, really good book. I would recommend this for new and mature Christians. I think I'm gonna take a pause. I just thought about this. All the books I'm recommending are for mature Christians. Even if they might have like a new Christian appeal to them, I think that it is always so important that even mature Christians are kind of stepping back to these basics and being reminded of them. And then, because when you are reminded, you can continue to grow on them. So even if you're a mature Christian and I say this book is for new Christians, don't think that you shouldn't read it, because you absolutely should, because these authors are wise and these authors are driven, and God is speaking through them and they can speak to you. So yes, new and mature Christians. The next book is big. It is actually a collection of C.S. Lewis's 8 spiritual books. It says 8 spiritual masterworks. So this includes the Screwtape Letters, The Four Loves, Mere Christianity, The Great Divorce. C.S. Lewis, the author of the books of Chronicles of Narnia, is an amazing, amazing writer. And any of these books in this collection, you can't go wrong with. They're really good. So if you're interested in reading C.S. Lewis, I definitely would recommend it for more of the mature Christians. Just read any of them. Give it a start. Screwtape Letters is amazing. It truly altered and opened my eyes to evil in the world and temptation, which was very good for me to have an eye-opening experience like that. So yes, I'll link this book. I will also put the links, or the titles at least, to the 8 books that are in it of his Christian masterworks. This book is a fiction book, Christian fiction. It's called Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. I was recommended this book. This is the book that so many female seminarians recommended to me. They're like, you have to read it. It's great. It is a really, really good story, to be completely honest. It does start a little slow, but if you can make it through the slow part, it's really, really, really good. So I almost gave up, but I didn't, and I'm so glad I didn't, because the first half kind of takes a long time to get through, but then the second half just speeds by because it just picks up and it gets so good. So it is this story of the prophet Hosea, and who has like a prostitute for a wife, and it's just so cool to see a biblical text really come to life. So we can read the biblical text, but we sometimes can't always imagine those conversations that are in between the lines or the emotions. So this is fiction. So even though those conversations in this book didn't happen, it does just bring it more to life, and it makes it more imaginable. It makes it like, oh, you can actually touch it and kind of understand it. So I've kind of become a big fan of Christian fiction. So, and this is a book I would recommend to see if you also like Christian fiction. It's The Redeeming Love. Alright, we have 2 more books left. This book is Heaven by Randy Alcorn. This book is so cool. Everyone has questions about heaven. Everyone has questions about afterlife. And that's because we don't know everything. Like, you should be asking those questions, because they're good questions. We want to know, but unfortunately we can't know everything. But what we do know, it's going to be better than we imagined. So you should read this book about heaven. It's really long. It's really academic. He uses scripture so much to back up what he is saying. Mr. Alcorn has been studying this stuff for a really long time, and he is very well known for his studying of heaven and afterlife. So some of the questions that this book answers is, will there be animals in afterlife? The answer is, I think, yes. For me, it's yes. If Homer ever passes away, I hope he doesn't, but he will go to doggy heaven. I don't care if that is theologically sound or not. That's just what I tell myself. But will animals inhabit New Earth? Another question that people might have is, what will heaven be like? What will the great city be like? Will we have the concept of time in heaven? What is the nature of present heaven? Is heaven our default destination? So a lot of really good and hard questions are in this book. It's not necessarily a book you have to read cover to cover. You can look at these questions and then go find the page and read about what he has to say about it. So really good. The last book that I have is The Story by Max Lucado and Randy Fraser. Oh, that's a foreword. Whoops. Okay, this isn't by anyone. Just kidding, it's by the Bible. Okay, this book is The Story. It is the Bible put into more of a story. So not a chronological story. For new and old Christians, I would recommend, especially new Christians. Sometimes when you look at the Bible, there's so much to it that it's overwhelming, but going into this, you can get the background information, you can learn about the stories of the Bible, and then when you go and actually look at the text, you'll have a little bit of background and context to it. So I actually listened to this on Audible. I've listened to it 2 times in a row now. It's just really good. So good. Another fiction book that I do not have because it's on Audible is by C.S. Lewis, The Chronicles of Narnia. They're fiction books. They are so good. And if you know the biblical story, the creativity is so amazing. And yes, I would just recommend it. If you've never read them, go read them and you will be amazed. So that is all the books I have. It was 15, well, give or take. 15 plus like the signature classics and Chronicles of Narnia. And these are my top books that I would recommend to people who want to read and grow in their faith and just feel encouraged in their walk with the Lord. So like I said, they will be linked below. If you haven't yet subscribed to this video, I would love for you to go ahead and subscribe. If you have a book that I didn't mention that you would recommend, comment below and share it with the world so we can all continue learning and growing. And if you do happen to read one of these books, I would love to hear from you how it challenged you, what you loved, maybe what you didn't like about it. So always feel free to either DM me on Instagram or you can leave a comment below. So with that, that is all I have. Oh, my shirt says books all day because I love reading, if you can't tell. So I will see you guys next time. I hope you have a great rest of your week and that you stay safe and healthy. God bless.